Can we go racing on this written off Suzuki SV650 in 24 hours time? This is going to be fun. This written off SV650 came from our good friends over at Motul. We were going to turn it into something quite special, but then I remembered, why do things properly when you can do them in a hurry with half the job done? So this Sunday, we're going to go and race it in the Mini Twins class at NG Road Racing at our local track at Pembrey. I'm not going to do anything to it I don't need to. There's a bunch of stuff you have to do for the regulations to go racing, such as lock wiring, you have to have a belly pan on, and a few things like that, removing the headlights. But apart from that, I'm going to do as little as possible to make this thing race legal, and then I'm going to see just how well a standard SV can fare against the modified Mini Twins paddock. That's not a small list, but it's also not achievable. Optimism all the way. Right, let's tear into it, see if we can get that lot done, get this thing out on a grid, and hopefully beat at least someone. That's the challenge. We have had this running already. I fired it up when we first picked it up. I had to repair the clutch switch, but that made it work properly. And we've also done a Motul oil analysis on it. Now, part of what we've been doing on these write-off rebuilds is using Motul's oil analysis service. Motul are a sponsor of the show, so they help us out with a few things. One of the things they do is regenerated oil, which we used on the S1000RR. If you went over to the Isle of Man, you might have seen our bike over there with their logos on it. One of the things we like is that we're bringing dead bikes back to life. Bikes that were kind of written off as no good anymore. It's a nice feeling to give them a new lease of life and keep them going. And that's the kind of cool thing with the Motul regen oil. It's not just fresh oil every time, it's a recycled oil, which recycling that involves motorbikes and doing skids and engines is the sort of recycling I can get very excited about. One thing I really like doing with these written off bikes is the Motul oil analysis. It's not such a huge deal for a road bike, it's just nice to know that your motor's in good condition. But for a race bike, something that's going to be ridden really hard, I kind of need to know what state that motor's in. And if I can send the oil off and get some feedback that says, actually, the bearings are all looking in good condition, the motor's in good nick, that then gives me a lot of confidence to go and race it without stripping it apart to inspect it. Likewise, if the results come back and say the main bearings are hanging out of it, I can deal with that before I throw a crank and chuck a set of rods out the cases. So for race bikes, I think it's gold, and I'm going to use it on my own race bikes in between meetings, because it's just that little check, that little tick, the early warning system before something goes wrong and causes a lot of mess. Unfortunately, this SV is trying to hide its oil from me. It's not giving its oil up willingly. We've got a little bit in there. It is. I don't need an oil analysis service to tell me that is murky. Ugh. We'll try and drag a bit more out of it, but yeah, that is not oil that's been changed regularly. It didn't come back that great. Their verdict was, it doesn't look like the oil's ever been changed. There's a lot of contaminants in the oil. There's a lot of bits of bearing material, and the oil's degraded horrendously. That's reflected by the fact that the oil filter is super rusty, so this clearly hasn't had any love for a while. Can't do anything about that this weekend. We spoke to the guys at Motul, and they did say what's worth doing is doing an oil change, running it, and then analysing it again when you've got fresh oil, and then you can see what the current wear is, because the wear in there is probably from the oil not being changed for years. That sounds like a great job, and for my little run to test the fresh oil, I'm going to go and race it, which is probably not what they had in mind. So since then, it has been sat doing nothing for a while. I'm hoping it's still got enough juice to fire up. That is a good start. Well, the engine runs, that's good. There are plenty of other perils that can stop this happening this weekend. I haven't been through the bike yet, so I'm just hoping that I don't find any other nasty problems or issues that are going to keep us off the grid. But for now, it makes brum noises. That is an excellent start. The oil analysis. Yeah. Be cool, wouldn't it? That is the longest sump plug I've ever seen. To be fair, the oil's old, but it's actually reasonably clean. Yeah. I've seen a lot worse oil than that coming out of motorcycles. And the sump plug is not full of bits of swarf of metal. See, the gods of racing are smiling on us today. There's a lot of goop coming off. but that looks all good to me. Nice. Well, gross, but it's clearly worked because the oil is okay. I'm not too stressed now. That is a big bonus. It's killing me not spending ages cleaning all the bottom of this engine up because it looks absolutely disgusting, but there are more pressing matters to deal with. First of all is our actual race prep, which is to drill the sump plug. All the sump plugs on race bikes have to be lock wired, so I need to cross drill the head of the bolt, and then I can put some lock wire through and hold it tight. So I've drilled the sump plug, so I can now put it back on the bike, and then I can lock wire it to something. Again, actually I will probably do it to that. You try and do it as nice as possible, because for an actual race bike, you're going to end up lock wiring it, cutting it, lock wiring it, cutting it every single race meeting. So it's good to do a nice job of that stuff and give yourself lots of options for where to tie the lock wire to. And when you tie the lock wire on, think about how it is actually doing. The whole point of it is to stop the bolt coming undone. So if it's not pulling in a direction that's going to stop the bolt coming undone, think about that and do it in a better direction. So when it comes to lock wiring an oil filter, if you prepped a race bike, you'll know this already, but if you buy certain brands of oil filter, I think High Flow Filtro, you can buy a race spec one that's got a nut on the end with holes for lock wiring, which is always super handy. I've gone for a Suzuki genuine one because I was feeling fancy. So you put the oil filter as normal and then put a Jubilee clip around the oil filter, lock wire the Jubilee clip. Handy little hack. While we're on the subject of oil filters, because I know there's quite a lot of people who watch these videos who are pretty good mechanics and pretty experienced and have got some good knowledge as well. There's a lot of different theories. Some people will tell you always run a bit of oil around the seal before you put it on. Some people will tell you don't do that because it makes it come undone more easily. Some people will tell you fill the oil canister first. Some people will tell you don't bother. And yeah, what's your thoughts? Some of those people who are watching that have got a thought on that, what do you reckon? Grease the seal first? Don't grease the seal first? Fill it first? Don't fill it? Give us a comment below and let us know. Let us know why. I always like to get some other info on this stuff. It's always fascinating. But that is an oil filter on a bike. Lock wire. And then oil back in. And then I can tick something off my list. Yes. Best tool. It is my favourite tool. There's an art in itself to lock wiring. There's all sorts of little nuances and ways you should do it. There's something we want to know in your comment. Are you an ex-RAF engineer? If so, can you send us some lock wiring info? Because I know that things like RAF engineers and aircraft engineers are super fussy about this stuff. So I always like to get some extra bits off them. Mainly so they can't pick on me when I've done it wrong. Sweet, lock wired. Fill it with oil. Recycled bike. Recycled oil. This is the stuff we use on our S1000RR. This is Motul's Engine 7, so it's made from high quality recycled oil and then synthetic additives. It's high grade, good quality oil, and I'm sure there's lots of people who are going to have lots of opinions one way or the other about it, but again, I trust this stuff. I've been absolutely fine on our S1000RR, and what better way to give it some abuse than putting it in a race bike? So let's stick it in, go racing, and save the planet all in one go. Don't worry, dolphins, you're welcome. No, you're the best. Thought I better chuck a set of spark plugs in it on account of the fact that it doesn't look like it's had much servicing. Look at that. Looks like it came off the Titanic, doesn't it? Hopefully the rear plug's not quite so bad, being that it's on the back cylinder and not covered in mud and spray off the front tyre, but that is not a pretty spark plug. Bit oily. That's more like it. I can cope with that. Air filter done, plugs done. Radiator, lock wire, filler cap, oil filter, sump, done. We're on the way. We are well on the way. So one of our critical race mods is this lever guard now. It's compulsory on ACU regulations for all racing in the UK, all road racing under the ACU. They're also getting compulsory on a few track days as well. Honestly, I strongly dislike them because the idea is that it stops someone hitting your brake lever like that. But the fact that they can hook on people, in my mind, just gives it just as much problem. But hey, there we are. They're the law, so we have to fit one, and we can all pretend we're MotoGP riders now. A couple other small repairs to make. Like brand new. Bit of token cleaning. Make it go shinier, if nothing else. The actual plan for this bike, long term, is to build, providing it survives this weekend, is to build a proper trick mini twin race bike. At which point I will strip it all down and clean it all beautifully. But right now, it's a case of throw it together, go and do racing. With a clean airbox. This, the nice shiny bit. Look at that! eBay hath giveth. That is a beautiful brand new alloy radiator, which hopefully fits. Nice! One of the regs for racing is that the brake lines must make the split above the lower yoke, so you can't have this arching over line. You have to have, basically you end up using 2 full lines from the top or 1 full line that then splits here, but this isn't allowed. Ordered a set of Hell Racing braided brake lines in snazzy bright yellow, and I also ordered all new bolts and washers as well, banjo bolts and washers, so she'll chuck them on. That'll also improve braking feel as well, which is cheating because I'm not supposed to be modifying it to go faster. It's supposed to be a road bike, but this is one mod we have to do. Regulations say I have to remove the headlight as much as I want to keep it looking like a road bike, but what I'm planning to do is take the headlight off and make a number board that fits in that original headlight dome, and then keeps as much of the front looking as standard as possible. So headlight is gone, sad times. Indicators as well, they have to leave, no indicators allowed. So I think this is silly. Safety first when you're on track. Surely you should have to signal when you're coming out of pits and stop all those pit lane crashes. But apparently not. Progress! We've done radiator. We've removed the headlight, the indicators and the brake switches. There are only 6 things on the list. Some of those things are big jobs, but yeah, close. Right. I think the next one I'm going to tackle is probably the shark fin, because that's an easy job. I'm keeping going with all the nice easy jobs, and then I'll do the hard stuff at the end. It's not the correct way, but it's my way. Number board, done. I'll whack this on the front of the bike, and then we're pretty much there. The next time you'll see it will be at Pembrey on the start of a race, hopefully, provided the scrutineers have got a reasonably good sense of humour. All that's actually left to do is fit a pair of tyres, get the belly pan on, which we had a look earlier, it's not going to be too bad, and then hopefully find a better chain, because the chain that's on it is minging. But majority of the work's done, so I'm going to crack on, get the van loaded, head down to the racetrack. I'm mechanicking for my brother on the Saturday to get this scrutineered. Race day Sunday. Let's see what happens. Not slept much, but we have a finished race bike. It was a pretty late night. Not anything major, no major problems, but just all those little things that you forget that need to take a little bit longer and a little bit longer, and all that. Oh, I need one of them. Then when I was making, I did decide to fit a new chain. I did decide that the rusty chain couldn't stay. And then when I was making the new chain late at night, I cut too many links out of the new chain, so then I had to rejoin it with, luckily I had another spare link in the drawer, so that chain's got 2 joining links on now. And they say a chain is only as strong as its weakest link, but I think if it's got 2 joining links, it should halve the chance of them breaking. Or something. Some late night concocted logic. But the bottom line, got here to the track, actually got through scrutineering. The scrutineers, as I find with most motorcycle race meetings, they're just friendly, they're helpful. They want you to be out on track, but they want you to be safe. Like, I've done a little bit of car racing, rallying, and it was the opposite. They were horrible. Like, it's like they didn't want you to be there. Whereas with the motorbike stuff, everyone's super helpful, super friendly. They were quite complimentary about my wooden number board. I was pleased with that. All that remains now is to actually see if it works. It has been ridden from the garage to the van, and then that's it. I've warmed it up, and so I've got 2 warm-up sessions this morning. That is going to be the tell. If I can get the bike out, get it round the warm-up without anything breaking, without anything going wrong. I don't even know if the clutch works. I don't even know if the engine's going to blow up. So we could have done all this work and be going home after 3 laps. Worst case scenario, something falls off and makes me crash, but I'm pretty confident everything's bolted on tight. But yeah, it's a complete unknown, this bike, so. Thankfully, the bike is perfect. You know, the suspension is okay, nothing's leaking. The engine is running and pulling cleanly and pulling pretty well for a, you know, pretty much bog stock road bike. Yeah, did 2 warm-up sessions. The high handlebars are a little bit odd, and as are the brakes that are a bit squishy and the forks that are a bit squishy, but that's all to be expected. It's a road bike. The point is, that bike is, I'm gonna have to top up exactly what it owes us, but it's around £1,000. It doesn't owe us a lot of money, and for that, we're here and we're taking part in a race meet. Racing can be super cheap. I've got a little bit of time now before my first race. I'll be starting from the very back of the grid because I didn't turn up and do qualifying because I had more exciting things to do, like build the bike. So yeah, that's going to be the tell. Out in anger, out among the other bikes, can it hold its own? I hope so, and I hope that front brake holds up. Got all carried away getting excited that you can go racing for 950 quid, because that's what we paid for the bike. I did have it pointed out to me that there's a few other expenses involved in going racing, things like the kit you need to actually go racing, getting your license. But I reckon, so if we say 950 quid for the bike, you've got to get a set of tyre warmers, which you can get a set for 100 quid. You're not going to get the best ones for that, but you'll get a set of tyre warmers for 100 quid. Paddock stands, a pair of paddock stands, let's budget another 100 quid for that. Don't forget, you don't need to buy brand new stuff. I'm going to assume you've got riding kit, so levers and what have you, but that's an expense to consider if you haven't got riding kit. You need a generator, decent generator, well, decent generator is loads of money. Cheap Chinese one, 200 quid. Go on, we'll upgrade to the second cheapest Chinese one, 290 quid, which is the one I've got. Extension lead, just nick one off your mum, don't worry about that. Tools, just bring your garage tools, don't need to worry about them. Tyre pressure gauge, all that stuff, don't worry about it. Just the basics of getting out. We're not talking about being a Grand Prix rider here, we're talking about getting out on the grid. And I'm lucky because I got a van for work, but there's nothing wrong with a car and a trailer. So, in fact, there's nothing wrong with riding a bike to the track. That's also possible. So, in terms of equipment, you need, what's that, 14, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. I've got to do this right because you'll pick on me. Yeah, 14. 1,440 quid with equipment. On top of that, you're going to need an ACU license, which is 50 quid. And if you've never raced before, you'll need to do the CTC course safety thing. That's about 200 quid, I think it's 190 quid or something like that. So you'll need to do that to get your license. And then you need a novice bib. And a novice bib will cost you £10 for an orange bib. So I reckon 9, 10, 4, 5, 6, 7, 700. So let's say Chris has forgotten a few things. I reckon for £2,000
equals race time. It's going to be the best interesting telly you've ever seen, me drawing a checkered flag really badly. I reckon for £2 you could be on track, racing a bike and having fun. What else would you spend that £2 on? You'd only waste it. Kitchen deposit on a car. Spend it on motorbikes. It's way more fun. That was flipping brilliant. I cannot believe how fast we managed to get this bike to go. I say we because I had some help from a little brother who was out there on his race prep test fee, and can't let your little brother beat you, can you? So I ended up riding probably harder than I intended to. Had a mega race, and there you go. Stock road bike, I came 6th. It would have been top 5, but someone in that garage over there robbed me on the last corner, which I'm not going to forgive him of. He's still grinning about it. But yeah, 6th place, 2nd in the Mini Twins on a bog stock bike. Best of all, I did a 1 minute 5 something. Oh, 1 minute 5 flat, which is 2.5 seconds off of my own lap record on a proper race prepped one, which I am properly buzzing about. I did not think I'd get that close on this bike. Annoyingly, it's also faster than my beloved NC30 Honda, which means I'm probably going to have to tune the engine on that now because I don't want this to be my fastest race bike. We've got a few hours now to the next race. The only bit of the bike that I had any issues with was the cheap aftermarket brake levers. They're like a proper pet hate of mine, but halfway through the race, the adjuster on the lever slipped and dropped the brake back to the handlebar. I still had a brake, but I had to use all 4 fingers and it came back to the bar, which, yeah, for the sake of a cheap part, I should just put a stock Suzuki lever back on there, which I'm going to now. But other than that, I'm off to go and knob on my brother's bike so I can beat him in race 2.
Go, race time. That's my brother there, just hit me on the last corner earlier. Determined not to let that happen again. Bloody hell, 2nd. I won't be here for long, that's for sure. Enjoy it while it lasts. That's my old mate Will Birchall. I was racing at Aberdare ahead of me on a Super Twin. That thing is going to be a missile down the straight. Wow, look at that thing! That's fast! Felt like I was going backwards.
How am I going to ride that to work tomorrow?
I know, it wrecked. Thanks very much, guys.
Oh, dude.
Cheers for that. Hopefully don't see you next time.
I don't want to say that was inevitable, but I kind of thought that might happen. So we've just finished our race weekend. As you might be able to tell, I had a little tumble in the last race. All I wanted to do was get a good lap time and beat my little brother. What actually happened was me and my brother got a mega start from 5th and 6th on the grid, and we're right on the back of the leaders. I was second for the first few corners, and I kind of forgot what I was doing and where I was, and got over Racy Chris and was like, I can win this. I couldn't, but I thought I could. So I had two of my mates in front of me, a guy on an FZR750 Yamaha, and a mate of mine, Will Birchall, who I've raced at Aberdare, so there's good a bit old rivalry between me and Will. And I was trying my hardest, and I could close him a bit, then I'd make a mistake, drop back, close him a bit, make a mistake, drop back. And then I dropped back a little bit out of the last turn, thought I'll close him on the brakes into the hairpin, because given this is a road bike, that for me felt like the safest place to push it. And braking bolt upright in a straight line, the front locked, and it just went down like a sack of shit. And I honestly say, in the dry, I have never ever crashed a bike by locking the front tyre in a straight line. That's a new one on me. I don't know if it's a combination of the fact that it's set up very flat for road, whether it's, I suspect it's because the fork is so soft that the fork is on the bump stop the whole way down the braking zone, so the minute it hit a bump it just tucked. But I'm pointing all those things out. The actual reason I crashed is because I got overexcited and tried too hard because I thought I could win the race. But now I had another crash on the right hand side, bent the handlebar, bent the RNG crash mushroom, which was actually the one that came on it from when it was crashed in the first place. So I'm stoked that that's done so well, and I've snapped the back brake lever, and that's it. I tried to get back on and carry on racing, but the marshals told me I made enough of a pig's ear of it already that I should stop it there, which I'll give them that as a valid point. But it's only probably, I don't know, 50 quid away from racing again, which is awesome. If I was at another race today, we'd have bent the bar straight and carried on. So still stand by my point that you can go racing super cheap. I just think that maybe a set of stiffer fork springs and some heavier fork oil would be a wise idea, which I knew coming into this, but I wanted to try it standard. Most importantly, I did a 1 minute 4.3 lap time, which is less than 2 seconds from my lap record on a proper one. So very, very happy with that. And more than anything, just had a mega fun weekend, hanging out, seeing old friends, racing bikes, fixing bikes, crashing like an idiot. It's all the best thing ever. I'm going to wrap this thing up now. Massive thanks to Motormine for supplying us the bike in the first place, for helping us find a bike, to Bridgestone for always the support on the showing tyres, and in this case Motul have been a big supporter of the write-off rebuilds projects. Their whole thing with doing regenerated oil fits so nicely with taking written off bikes and racing them. Written off bikes was something I've always been involved with. I've always fixed up knackered old bikes and ridden them on the road or raced them, so for me this is like the perfect day out. I'm really pleased and really excited now to get stuck into this SV over the winter and go from complete budget race bike to, without blowing the bank, something pretty special. Stay tuned for more SV650 updates. Thanks for watching.